Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Tuesday, it's September 26th. It is 2023. We have an 11-game baseball slate to talk about here on today's podcast. Joined today by my buddy Keith Eister, Eys819. Keith, what's happening, my friend?
Busy Monday night. We just had our small 3-game baseball slate kick off. We've had, obviously, in the middle of the Monday night football doubleheader. So lots going on here as we're recording. Got all kinds of action out there. So kind of keeping one eye on what's going on outside the podcast, but happy to jump in and break down this MLB Tuesday. We've got very few of these left.
Yeah. Obviously playoff right around the corner. Just watch, Jordan Alvarez just smashed a baseball. Luis Castillo just gave up an absolute bomb to Jordan Alvarez. So what's up? Happy Monday night, everyone in YouTube. I see people hanging out with us over there. So what's up? Hope everyone's having a much better 2-game NFL slate than me. Baseball so far so good. I said it on the podcast yesterday. This is probably a slate that I just played like one team, and it ended up being Verlander, Snell, and a full Texas Angels game stack. So we'll see how that kind of pans out. But not having Castillo seems to be a good start to the baseball slate. So
we were talking a little bit pre-show. Castillo coming in higher owned Verlander was a surprise to both of us. Like, Houston just strikes out so little. Verlander had a 6.5 strikeout prop. Castillo had a 5.5 strikeout prop. So I didn't understand that ownership, and Castillo was more expensive. So we talked on the podcast last night that we might pivot to Castillo just because of ownership, and then turns out Castillo was higher owned. So I was happy to play Verlander tonight too.
Joe Burrow, we're watching the end of this Rams Bengals game. The Bucks game was atrociously bad. This game's not been much better for what it's worth. Like, Burrow looks really hurt, and creative juices are flowing for the Bengals because they got Jamar Chase everywhere right now trying to get him involved. And I feel like that's what we kind of wanted week 1 and week 2. So it's good to see them.
It's basically just Burrow throwing it to him like within 5 yards and hoping that Chase can make a play. Like, Burrow has not thrown the ball downfield more than 5 times the entire game.
Yeah, he looks hurt. Mixing with the touchdown there is gonna make that game more interesting for sure. So let's talk some baseball. We went through the standings yesterday on the smaller podcast. So we'll definitely be watching that. Like, we'll watch it more. We'll probably check back in on like Thursday, but obviously we'll be talking about it as we're talking about some games. But let's jump in, have some fun here. We get started with the Yankees at Toronto facing the Blue Jays. King against Gausman. This game has a 7 total. The Blue Jays a 160 favorite. Michael King has been phenomenal. At least 8 strikeouts in 3 matchups in a row. 13 strikeouts against Toronto last time out. We talked about it. He was one of our favorite plays on the podcast last week when we had this same matchup. They're so right-handed heavy, and he is very talented young pitcher. I think I go back to the well here. He's 6,000. He went up $100 after putting up almost 37 fantasy points. Like, how do we not have interest in Michael King in this spot?
You have to, right? Like, I hate playing pitchers in back-to-back starts against the same team. But even if he sees a slight fall off in strikeouts because he's going back-to-back, like, he's still live for 9 or 10. I don't know what DraftKings is doing with this pricing here. He's been incredible since they've fully stretched him out. The strikeout rate from the bullpen has translated almost completely. He's above 31% on the season. $6,000 is like $3,000 too cheap in this matchup. Like, you just have to have interest in Michael King. It's a rematch of this matchup from last week. Both pitchers had double-digit strikeouts. So King being 5,500 less than Gausman, you have to go right back to the well, I think.
Yeah, I love the matchup. I think the matchup is phenomenal. It's hard for me not to have a ton of interest here in this price. Like, he's too cheap for his upside, and like, he's too cheap for almost want to say he's too cheap for like his floor more than anything else. So Love the price and matchup here. Going to the other side, Gaussman 11-5. Obviously, he just dominated the same team a week ago as well. 10 strikeouts. They're a very right-handed heavy offense. Gaussman is a very good pitcher against right-handed hitters. Like, I mean, I could see myself like playing both of these guys together. You know, Eflin, tough matchup in Boston. Steele, tough matchup in Atlanta. Kirby against Houston. I mean, Bailey Ober is kind of where we start to get easier matchups. We got Bobby Miller against Colorado that we'll talk about. Like, it's just when you're looking at this slate, I think like if you're gonna spend up, it's probably Gaussman against the Yankees.
Yeah, I agree. If you're spending up, it's Gaussman against the Yankees, but we do have the Dodgers in Coors Field that we definitely need to keep in mind here. How often are we paying up for pitching? It's a great matchup for Gaussman. He's been incredible this year. Strikeout rate above 30%. Yeah, I mean it's a decision point because you're not playing Gaussman in a full Dodger stack. If you're intent on fading Coors, then I think Gaussman is going to be a primary pivot for you, and that makes a ton of sense to me. So if spending up, Gaussman is certainly the guy. The upside's tremendous in this matchup against a Yankees team that strikes out a bunch. It's whether you feel comfortable fading the Dodgers or not is basically the decision point, I think.
I could see saving money at pitcher today and not going up to Gaussman. But I mean, like I said, I think if you are paying up, I don't see a reason why you wouldn't have interest in Gaussman. As far as the Yankees bats are concerned, I mean, they don't really have like power lefties to attack Gaussman. I think it's a really good spot for Gaussman. Probably off the Yankees bats outside of maybe like taking home run shots with like Judge or Stanton, but Judge at 6,500 as a one-off, it's always tough to swallow that price when you're one-offing him. But I mean, he's one of a few hitters that legitly have 3 home run upside on any given slate.
Yeah, no interest for me in the Yankees. I'm not attacking the most talented pitcher on the slate. It's an 11-game slate. I can find plenty of better one-offs.
Toronto bats, I mean, kind of the same thing. They don't really have that like left-handed power. It is the second matchup in a row for, like you said, for both of these pitchers. So maybe in that aspect, you look at stacking Toronto, but I mean, everything that we've seen from King so far is like, this looks like it is very, very legit. So I don't see myself playing a lot of Toronto bats. This game has a 7 total for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it there. King's strikeout ability is real. The fact that he's shown it to us now that he's fully stretched out, I'm buying into what he's doing. So I have no interest in a Toronto offense that's been largely disappointing this year overall anyway.
I got Tampa Bay at Boston facing the Red Sox. 8.5 total in this game. Rays a 135 favorite. Zach Eflin against Tanner Houck. Zach Eflin 10-3. Tougher matchup against Boston. I don't think that like he necessarily has some of the upside as guys below him. I mean, I don't think Eflin's a bad pitcher. I just don't see myself getting to Zach Eflin today.
Yeah, the price tag is tough. The upside thing is interesting. He has been striking out a lot more guys here recently, but he gets a massive ballpark downgrade going into Fenway. Boston, not a team that strikes out a ton, much more that they strike out much more than they did at the beginning of the season. Now that they've got a couple of young guys up, Trevor Story back in the lineup, Duvall was down for a little bit. So there are a few strikeouts in this Boston lineup, but the ballpark downgrade, the price tag, it's like, if I'm getting up to this range, it's just going to be Gaussman for me.
Yeah, I will say like my upside comment a lot more to do with like his pitch count. Like, yeah, his strikeouts are up, but I mean, he's under 90 pitches in 4 of his last 5 starts. So kids gloves. I mean, the Rays are, we talked about it on the podcast yesterday. Rays are in a great spot. They're clinched the wild card. They're trying to catch Baltimore, and Baltimore just keeps winning. Tanner Houck on the other side of this game, I don't think I will do it. I mean, if we do get I don't mean this in the mean way, but if we do get like an above average pitcher against Tampa right now, they could be interesting. Like Diaz is banged up or Rosarina is banged up. They just placed Brandon Lau on the IL. So, I mean, it sounds like he's going to be out 3 to 5, 4 to 6 weeks in that range. So, I mean, the lineup overall is not as strong for Tampa, but I mean, Tanner Houch is just not a guy that's going to go out and dominate a team. He's going to have one or two good starts every now and then, but he needs a very right-handed heavy, strikeout heavy offense for him to have upside.
Yeah, if this game were in Tampa, I would have some interest here. But being in Fenway, I definitely hear your comments about the Tampa Bay offense being watered down. They're one of the best offenses, but they're missing a couple of pieces right now. Being in Fenway Park, though, we just talked about Michael King, $1,000 less. There's another guy later on who's slightly cheaper than him too that I think is very much in play. Don't see myself playing Houck at home here against a good Tampa Bay offense. They're probably not an elite Tampa Bay offense as constructed currently, but still above average, I would say.
I mean, what, 3 of their best 4 hitters out of the lineup?
Yeah.
So, Tampa Bats, I will say one thing, like with the injuries, they're going to be cheap. Like Tampa is going to have some cheap pieces here. We'll have to kind of wait and see what the lineup looks like. But I mean, like, this might be a spot like Curtis Mead cracks the lineup. He's cheap. Gosh, yeah. I mean, definitely gonna have some interest in the Tampa Bats, and I mean, this might be one of those spots we're looking for like 1, 2, maybe even like a mini stack, 3-man stack, to just play some value.
Yeah, I do think you could find 3 cheap guys. I've talked about the ballpark enough. Like, this is a massive upgrade for the Tampa Bats in terms of ballpark, going from one of the best pitchers parks in baseball at home to Fenway Park, which is one of the best hitters parks. Caminero is an elite prospect who's still really cheap. I like that play. Has shortstop eligibility, so I like that. Like you said, you just got to kind of see what the lineup is. There's going to be some replacements in there. There's some guys who are listed as day to day right now, but I don't hate trying to find a cheap 3-man here in a great hitters park.
Boston Bats. I mean, obviously, I think Devers, Yoshida, Verdugo are all very interesting. They called up Valdez. I don't mind maybe taking some shots on Valdez here. I don't know what's his price. $3K at second base. I don't mind that. He has a little bit of upside here. We saw him a little bit earlier this year, and now he's back up with the big league club. Has a little bit of pop. Has some stolen base upside as well. So don't mind Valdez at $3K at second base.
Yeah, it's strictly ballpark related here. I think Eflin is a well above average pitcher. I'm not hugely interested in these Boston Bats. If they were cheaper, I would have more interest. But ballpark, I think you can take some shots here. Yoshida at 4,200, I like that call. The Valdez call as well. I'm on board with. Let's see who else here. If Abreu's in the lineup, I wouldn't mind that. Again, I don't think I'm spending up for like a premium Boston stack where I'm stacking Devers, Duvall, Turner type of thing. But if you want to give me Yoshida and a couple of cheap young guys, I'm okay with that.
Miami at New York facing the Mets. 8 total. Marlins a 130 favorite. We got Garrett and Lucchesi. Any interest here in Braxton Garrett?
Don't think I can do it against the Mets here. Just the leash is a little bit of a concern. He has been over 90 in 3 straight, which is nice to see. For a while there, they were keeping him down in the high 70s, mid 80s, but he's been over 90 in his last 3. So maybe a little bit more in play than I'm giving him credit for here. Great ballpark to pitch in Citi Field, but the Mets don't strike out a ton. There's some other plays in this range that I certainly prefer.
Yeah, I think he's playable today. You mentioned good ballpark, and Mets dealing with a few injuries right now. Like Alvarez might not be in the lineup. We know like Marte's on the IL. Nimmo is banged up, which I mean maybe that hurts us because it's lefty. But I mean realistically, like with the lineup that could be rolling out there, we're just kind of fading Alonso and Lindor, and I think that Garrett has enough upside that we could definitely do it. The only problem is to be the 4th start against the Mets this season, and he just faced them last time out. So, I mean, that's always something that's on my mind here. So, do I love it? No. Do I hate it? No. I mean, I think that he's a viable option today. And, I mean, just maybe a pivot off of Miller. Maybe Miller doesn't get a ton of ownership in cores. We'll talk about that. But Yeah, I have a lot of interest in Miller today. Luke KC on the other side of this game, 7,200. I mean, good ballpark. Miami is still very, very much involved in playing for something. I probably don't touch Luke KC today.
No interest in Lucchesi for me. Very low strikeout rate. Miami has been much better against left-handed pitching this season than they have been against right-handed pitching. I don't see the upside, and I actually like Miami bats a bit here.
Yeah, I kind of like the Miami bats as well. I think Soler is one of the top hitters on the entire slate. Like, he has just been like elite. One of the top 5 hitters in baseball against left-handed pitching this season. So I think Soler, just a phenomenal spot. He's been hitting well. I think he has a hit in 5 straight games. I think this is a great power upside spot for him. And, you pair him with like a Jake Berger and go lefty with Jazz. And it's an expensive stack that I don't think a lot of people will be on today.
Yeah, I completely echo everything you just said. Soler is one of the top bats on the slate for me. Love the Berger call. He's been incredible against lefties as well. I think I can full stack this. Like, I can add in a guy like Josh Bell, who's been better since coming to Miami. De La Cruz is serviceable against lefties. Jazz is certainly playable in any matchup. A walk and a stolen base. I mean, he's expensive, but also should get a couple of at-bats against the bullpen. But I'm in love with the 3-man of Soler, Berger, and fill in the third. And I think I'll have a couple of full stacks of them as well.
The only reason that I don't have a ton of interest in the full stack is the ballpark, more than anything else. Like, the Mets bullpen, bottom 10 bullpen. I mean, I hear your points there for sure. Mets bats. I mean, it's the 2 guys I said. It's Lindor, it's Alonso. Alonso's 5,300, so he's not like 6,500 against the lefty. Always very much in play. 45 home runs on the season, just having another phenomenal year.
Yeah, Alonso, Lindor, that's about it. Mauricio, I suppose the price is coming up, but man, this dude has a ton of power. One of the top exit velocities since his call up. Price is up to 4,100. He's not 2,500 anymore, but still in play. Second base eligibility is a huge help as well. I could make that a 3-man, but Garrett's a pretty decent pitcher. I think I prefer just chasing home runs here.
All right, heading to Atlanta. We got Chicago Cubs, Atlanta Braves, big series for your Cubbies here. 9.5 total in this game.
Gonna be a season ender, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, if they could squeeze 1 or 2 here, it'd be huge for them.
Yeah.
9.5 total. Braves a 150 favorite. We got Steele and Elder facing off against each other. Justin Steele having a phenomenal year. Tough matchup, man. There's not many pitchers I'm going to take against the Braves. I will say the only reason that I would have some interest here is like we just get a really bad Braves, give the guys a day off type of lineup. But with them off on Monday, I highly doubt we get that type of lineup. So probably not going to have interest in Steele today.
Yeah, you just can't do it at 9,900. Steele was in the Cy Young race going into that matchup against Arizona. Arizona was behind the Cubs in the wild card race going into that series. I went to this game and Steele just got his face punched in. And that was kind of like, we were excited about the Cubs going into the playoffs to kind of like looking ahead to next year. That was very much a turning point in the season for me as a fan. Then Steele was very bad against Pittsburgh the next time out too. So Steele kind of laying an egg down the stretch here in very important games for the Cubs has been a problem. There's no way I'm playing 9,900 for him against Atlanta. Just from a Cubs perspective, this is a game they need. Like this is a better pitch, the best pitching matchup they'll have of the series. Steele's been their best pitcher all season long, so they need him to show up. But even if he shows up and puts up 7 solid innings, like 9,900 is just too much here against the Braves.
All right, going to the other side of this game, Elder, his biggest struggles is left-handed hitters, and I think the Cubs have more than enough lefties to attack with Elder. No interest for me in Elder today.
Yeah, no interest in Elder for me either.
I have a lot of interest in the Cubs bats today. Tauchman, Happ, Bellinger. I think all these guys are very interesting. If I'm going to get 3 or 4 of these guys, I'll definitely be looking to find that other couple pieces. I think the Cubs,
playing for something. Great matchup against Bryce Elder. Bryce Elder is a hittable pitcher, and he'll struggle with walks from time to time. So like if you get one of those like 3 to 5 walk games, he'll give up 6 to 10 hits in a start. Like I could see the Cubs being a difference maker on the tournament slate today.
Yeah, love the lefties in this spot. Bellinger's super expensive. It's going to cost you a Dodgers bat if you want to go up there. Still above 6K. But Elder, we've been talking about Elder splits for a long time. Terrible against lefties, so that's what we're targeting here. Happ at 4,500, a great option. Tauchman, if he's in the leadoff spot at 3,500, absolutely love that. If Crow Armstrong would happen to crack the lineup, he hasn't played very much since getting called up, but talented prospect at 2,300. I think you could punt him even if he's batting eight or nine. The full stack is a little tough just because Elder is pretty good against righties, but give me 3 of these lefties for sure.
Going to the Atlanta side here. Steele's a good pitcher, but Atlanta's super expensive. I really think like the only way that I'm playing Atlanta in this spot is a stack. Like I'm just figuring out a stack, making it work. Like I think you could one off like Ozuna under 5K the way he's been hitting lefties this year, but overall, I think like if I'm playing this team, I really want to stack them.
Yeah, I agree. And it's tough to stack them, like a full stack especially. And the other thing is like the Braves have been outstanding against lefties, but part of the way to fit Brave stacks in since they've been just on this absolute tear since like June 1st or whatever is Eddie Rosario and Michael Harris being value bats. But now they're lefty. And Steele is pretty neutral split. So like it's not the worst ideal in the world, but just not something that you love. I will say Arcia is a guy who has hit lefties extremely well. He's 3,800. He might be a way to make this work. But I agree with your take that if you're going to play Braves, you want to stack them. And you're hoping that Steele is tired. He's at a career high in innings. He has been beat up his last 2 times out. Maybe he just ran out of gas this season and the Braves absolutely destroy him. And then you get into the very vulnerable early part of the Chicago Cubs bullpen. So it's a stack for me if I'm playing them. And I think you do have to play a couple of them just because of the upside and Steele's recent form.
St. Louis at Milwaukee taking on the Brew Crew. 8 total in this game. Brewers a 160 favorite. We got Hauser and Thompson. Any interest here in Zach Thompson?
I've played a little bit of Thompson here down the stretch. Pretty decent strikeout rate. The guy's 5,500, but like this matchup against the Brewers has been a really difficult one for lefties down the stretch. The Brewers have just been an incredible offense in the second half. A couple of additions that eliminated a bunch of strikeouts. I don't think I need to do it today. I love Michael King at 6K for just 500 more. We're still getting Blackburn is in the next game that we're going to talk about him a little bit too. So don't think I necessarily need Thompson. If Blackburn happens to get super popular, like I know King's going to have some ownership and I'm okay with that because he has just crazy upside. If Blackburn has some ownership and I'm looking for a pivot, maybe I get some Thompson, but I don't love the matchup here.
Yeah, I like the price. King's going to be chalky. I don't think I can do it. But if I'm playing like 20 entry max, like I think he'd be in my player pool or really close to being in my player pool. Because we're going to talk about some really bad pitchers down here in this price range. So I think like Blackburn, King, Thompson, maybe Hauser on the other side of this game would be like the options that we're potentially looking at here. Let's talk about Hauser. On paper, the Cardinals good offense, but now Contreras on the IL, Arenado on the IL, Gorman on the IL. Like now we're getting like a AAA Cardinals lineup. Obviously the top half of the lineup with Nootbaar, Edman, and Goldschmidt still very, very tough, but the bottom half of this lineup is just a bunch of call-ups and show us what you have type of lineup. So I could see potentially taking some shots on Hauser. I also could see like stacking St. Louis in this spot too. So I don't have like a strong take either way. I just think that like Hauser under 7K is okay.
Yeah, I hear you. It's definitely a Cardinals watered down lineup, but Hauser's not a guy I love to play in DFS. Strikeout rate under 20%. if he was cheap, like I think I would rather take shots on the strikeout rate for Thompson for 1,300 less than play a little bit of Hauser. We'll see what the St. Louis lineup looks like, but even though it's a watered down lineup, I still believe in some of the talent of these guys. Like Walker, I fully believe he's going to be a great hitter for a long time. It does fall off pretty quickly. Like they've got Palacios in there quite a bit now. Yeah, I mean, looking at their potential options, it is definitely a watered down lineup. I don't hate it. It's just I don't know if the strikeout upside is there. I love the strikeout upside for Blackburn at the same price. I think the strikeout upside for Thompson is just as good for a little bit cheaper as well.
Yeah. Gosh, you just look at this lineup right now. Like I was
it's bad.
Like semi.
I was trying to make
an
make an argument, and then I saw the lineup, and I'm like, yeah, maybe you're onto something here. I don't think it's crazy by any means, and I can count the amount of times I played Adrian Hauser in DFS on one hand probably.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I think Wynn's their top prospect in the organization. He just hasn't shown a ton of stuff, and like everything I've read on like Wynn is like he's more of a glove than he is like a hitter.
And he's very raw still. Like he has some potential, but he's still very raw and definitely is more toolsy than he is production right now.
Oh yeah, so. I mean, you're getting some prospects in this lineup, but I mean, if you look at the Cardinals like top prospects, like a lot of them are still like single A, double A, like so they're not even like ready like prospect wise. Like the Cardinals made a run at trying to be good for a few years, and it didn't work out this year for sure. So Baker 2,300, he has some pop. But, I mean, are you really going to play him at first base? Probably not. Cardinals bats for you. I mean, we're going to get some cheap bats here.
Yeah, I like the cheap 3-man. Walker is the primary piece. I like Nootbaar, but the price at 4,600 is tough to get to. Palacios is not really a prospect. He's kind of bounced around between a couple of organizations after failing out a little bit, but he's cheap and he's been hitting in the middle of the order. Wynn at the bottom has some speed upside. If you can get him on base, he can certainly steal a couple for you. It's just getting on base is kind of the challenge right now. Irving Lopez has second base eligibility, another prospect that they just called up, not a super elite type prospect at all. But they're all cheap. That's the point. Like you can find 3 of these guys under 3K, or you can add Walker to that, who's just 3,900, Palacios at 3,200. You can definitely find 3 of them. Hauser's not a matchup to be afraid of by any means.
Milwaukee bats. I think Milwaukee is a really sneaky stack. Like again, this is the time of year we're looking for teams playing for something. The Brew Crew are like a couple, 1 or 2 games away from like clinching. I think they only need to win 1. So like maybe this is the spot that we just see the Brew Crew go bonkers to clinch this division.
Yeah, I have some interest here. William Contreras is one of the top options on the slate for me. Catcher eligibility, he's expensive. I know some of us don't like to spend up for catcher, but I think he's worth it today. Donaldson has kind of had a little resurgence here since coming over to the Brewers. He's still cheap at 3,900. Canna's hit lefties really well in his career, 3,700 there. Monasterio has some skills at 3,100. Santana has been better since coming over to the Brewers as well. Adames and Yelich are obviously elite bats. Both of them better against righties, but certainly Adames I like at 4,400. I don't know if I'd probably leave Yelich out of my stack at 5,200 just because of the price tag, and he's much better against righties. But this Brewer stack I'm very interested in as well.
All right, moving on. We got Oakland at Minnesota. These are 2 teams, and they're still playing baseball. It's that time of the year. No total in this game. Ober against Blackburn. Blackburn 6,700. Potential pivot off of King. Potential pairing with King to get like an Atlanta stack or a Dodgers stack. Like, I mean, Paul Blackburn's not someone that I typically will play a lot of, but I could see him scoring like 15 to 20 points against like again, a Minnesota team now, no Lewis, no Buxton, no Correa. They are already a really heavy strikeout team. Like, you look at the projected starting lineup, and they're going to have a lot of call-ups and young hitters in this lineup, which, I mean, you're going to get added strikeout upside. So I think Blackburn is firmly in play today.
Yeah, absolutely. I've hinted at it a couple of times. I love the spot for him. Minnesota has been one of the highest strikeout teams all season long, and you just named off three of their absolute best hitters who are on the injured list. It's going to be a watered-down Minnesota lineup. Blackburn is a guy who's taken a jump in strikeout rate this year. I think 6,700 is too cheap for this matchup. If he goes under the radar, I'm happy to pivot away from King, who's facing a Yankees team for the second time in a row. I also like pairing King and Blackburn together and just paying up for all the bats. I think that's very viable on the slate.
Yeah, and like they're not going anywhere. Like, they are where they're at in the playoff situation. They've clinched the division. They have nothing to really play for. They're not going to catch Texas or Baltimore or Tampa if Tampa Bay like goes above Baltimore. Like, whoever wins like the West and whoever wins the East, Minnesota's just not catching them. Minnesota's going to be playing that wild card game, and I mean, like, Buxton's getting closer to being back, but everything I've read is they're being very slow and careful with the knee because there's no reason to rush him back right now. So just a heavy strikeout Minnesota team with honestly just nothing to play for at this point of the season. So, yeah. And like the other side of this game, I think like Bailey Ober, I worry about his pitch count because, like I just said, they don't really have anything to play for. So, like, if he throws 6 clean innings and he's at like 90 pitches, he probably doesn't come back out. But I mean, you like the matchup. You love a matchup against Oakland. He's been hit or miss recently. This could be a really good like get right spot for him to get ready to make potentially a playoff run.
Yeah, I think you make some interesting points there about the pitch count because I was going to make some comments about him being over 90 in the last two after they've been careful with him all year. They haven't been willing to push him. But I think now that they've clinched, that's a really great point, and probably looking at a ceiling of like 90, maybe 95 if you're lucky. But you definitely have some interest here. He's got a slightly above average strikeout rate, almost 24% on the season, and it's a matchup against Oakland, who we've attacked all season long. So he's in play. The price is a little bit concerning if he's not getting over 90 pitches. And there's always the risk too that they'll pull him at 78 pitches or whatever. Like you said, if he's been through 5 or 6, whatever number they have in mind, if they want 5 or 6 innings out of him and he gets through that, he's probably just done for the day. So ownership, take a look at ownership. If he's really low owned, I still love some tournament darts, but people know to kind of attack Oakland by this point in the season. So I think he gets some ownership here. If he comes in 20% owned, I'd probably be under the field on that.
You have to think he's their third starter or potentially fourth starter, I guess, because they have Lopez, Ryan, Sonny Gray. So he might be like
fourth, yep.
And like maybe move to the bullpen for the wild card round. But anyway, maybe he doesn't have a pitch limit. Maybe he does get normal pitches here. I don't think they're as worried about like a fourth starter as they are like a 1 or 2. So. Oakland bats. Any interest here in Oakland?
I mean, Ober's an above average pitcher. Oakland's one of the worst offenses in baseball, so not a ton. You can certainly hunt home runs against Ober. Noda might be my favorite option there. Seth Brown would be fine. I don't think I'm stacking against Ober, but I don't mind trying to find a home run here.
Yeah, I think home run chasing is always fine. He's given up a lot more home runs to righties this season. So, like, right-handed power with, like, Roker or Gelov, like, I think those guys are really interesting, like, plays. Don't mind the Nada call as well at 3,700. My favorite bat here might be Roker at 3,700. If for some reason like Ruiz hits leadoff, I would have a ton of interest in him if he hits leadoff in this spot. But he hasn't been playing daily, so you got to watch that. I mean, I don't know how a guy that has 65 stolen bases and hitting 250 is not in your lineup every single day, but it is Oakland. Minnesota bats in this spot. I mean, we have interest in Blackburn. but do we have any interest in the Minnesota Bats?
I honestly think Blackburn's going to be one of my highest owned pitchers on this slate, just because I think King is going to come in with some ownership. And like I said, I'm fine pairing them together, but I'm going to be looking for some pivots and spots too, where I'm a little chalkier in other spots. That being said, like Blackburn is certainly beatable. Like he's not some elite pitcher by any means, but just this Minnesota lineup is dealing with so many injuries. They're very left-handed, so that's a slight downgrade to Blackburn, but Kepler, Kirilloff are fine. Wallner, Julien. The other thing is the Twins pinch hit quite a bit. They're similar to San Francisco in that. I don't know how many lefties the Oakland bullpen has at this point, but something to keep in the back of your mind. Maybe check the bat for pinch hit risk if you have access to that. Certainly something I'll be doing, but like I might build a Minnesota stack or two just because I'll have so much exposure to Blackburn.
Yeah, I mean, so you're a little concerned about the pinch hit risk, but like Wallner has power, Kepler has power. Blackburn has had a little bit of like reverse splits when it comes to like home run power, which could play into the fact that one of the reasons why we like Blackburn so much here. But I don't mind taking a one-off power bat in like Kirilloff, Kepler, or Wallner here to try to chase a home run against Blackburn. Arizona at Chicago taking on the White Sox. This game has a 9.5 total, and the Diamondbacks a 130 favorite. Urena and Zach Davies. What a baseball game! Arizona. I mean, they're another team. You're as a Cubs fan rooting against Arizona right now, but they need every game. Zach Davies. We're not playing Zach Davies, right?
No chance, even against the White Sox.
Jose Urena actually pitched pretty well last time out. BABIP was well on his side. In a game where he threw 6 really good innings, they yanked him early at 70 pitches. I just not against Arizona, man. Like, good for him having a good start last time out, but this is not a spot I even want to remotely think about playing Jose Urena.
Yeah, I mean, what is the upside here? Arizona is one of the heaviest contact teams in baseball. Like, I think there's some encouraging signs from Urena, but I'm not doing it here against Arizona. No way.
Encouraging signs is great, just not against this team. All right, let's talk bats. I think this is a really interesting game for bats. On the Arizona side, Ketel Marte is a little banged up. He sat out Monday with an illness. We'll see if he's back or not. But, I mean, Carroll, I think one of the top hitters on the slate. Pairing Carroll with like a Christian Walker is something I definitely don't mind here. Looking at Arizona's stack as a whole, like if Alek Thomas cracks the lineup with a good lineup spot, I like him. Like you could go Carroll, Pham, Walker, Thomas, and then find a fifth piece with like a Gurriel, or if someone draws a good lineup spot, if Marte sits. So yeah, very interested in the Arizona bats in this spot.
Yeah, I am as well. Interesting signs are not from Urena. He's a guy that we've chased power against for multiple years now. Arizona is one of the top stacks on the slate. Love Carroll. Love the Alek Thomas call. He is so cheap, and he's been hitting in like the 3 or 5 spot in the order pretty frequently here. So he might be my favorite cheap bat on the slate. Love Tommy Pham in this spot. Also hits in the middle of the order, really cheap. Like outside of Carroll, especially if Marte sits, like Marte and Walker in the 4K range, everybody else is below 4K. It's a cheap stack. It's a fantastic spot. The White Sox bullpen is terrible. They traded away a bunch of relievers at the trade deadline. So like, I think Arizona might be my second favorite stack on the slate outside of the Dodgers and Coors.
I think the White Sox are an interesting team today as well. I know a lot of us have kind of given up on the White Sox. Robert dealing with like a little bit of a knee injury, but like look at the pricing on the White Sox against Zach Davies today. Like, are you kidding me? Like, yeah, like I don't love the White Sox in general, but I think this is a team you could look at for a secondary stack if you wanted to on the slate, and it could easily pay off. It could easily pay off in this matchup against Zach Davies. Zach Davies is not going to throw the ball by anybody.
Yeah, completely agree. I think this is going to be like the chalk cheap way. Like, obviously, we're going to be playing some Dodgers and trying to save money elsewhere so that we can get decent enough pitching into our lineup, especially if you're not in love with the Blackburn play. Like I think King is gonna be a popular pairing with Dodgers, but I think White Sox are gonna be a little popular with Dodgers as well. Like it's a great matchup against Davies. Gives up a ton of home runs, a ton of power, and they're all under 4K except for Luis Robert. So certainly they're very much in play. Love this spot. Moncada at 3,800, probably my favorite price considered. Jimenez at 4K is still too cheap. Davies gives it up to both sides of the plate too. So definitely one of the top cheap stacks on the slate.
I mean, like Anderson's down here, Vaughn's down here, like yeah, Moncada, like you mentioned, just a cheap
Cheats if he's in there.
Yeah, just cheap stack. Like I more of like probably like a secondary stack for me, but a cheap secondary stack. So we need some cheap secondary stacks, Keith, because Dodgers and Rockies in course. Bobby Miller against Ryan Feltner. This is the second game of a doubleheader, but they have been leaving these games on the slate with the early doubleheaders, so I'm assuming that they'll leave this one on the slate. I really wish they'd just take it off, but I mean, that's just me. Let's talk Bobby Miller. I think Bobby Miller is an extremely talented pitcher. This is a tough matchup in cores, ballpark-wise, but lineup-wise. I mean, the Rockies have one of the worst lineups in baseball. I have a lot of interest today in Bobby Miller. Second half of a doubleheader, like, does Blackman play both games? Does Chris Bryant play both games? Like, we could get a watered-down Rockies lineup in cores, low ownership because it's in cores. I think Miller could have like 25-plus point game here.
Man, I completely agree with you. And I'm glad that he's priced up too, because if he was 8K in this spot, he would be chalk, I think. An elite fastball from Bobby Miller. We know that the velocity is not affected while a lot of breaking pitches are, but Bobby Miller lives on his fastball. I think that plays like that translates to cores. I think this is a fantastic spot. I'm completely on board with this from you. He's been really good recently. They've been letting him go deep. He's been close to 100 in 3 out of his last 4, over 90 in all 4 of those. It looks like he's like coming into his own down the stretch. Like early in the season, we knew he was super talented, but the strikeouts weren't quite there. Now it seems like the strikeouts are coming along. He's really starting to find his groove in the majors. Excellent matchup. I know the ballpark is awful, but the Colorado lineup is awful as well. I'm going to be throwing some Bobby Miller fastballs in my lineups for sure.
Yeah, one of the top prospects here, and it's starting to finally show. You know, this is a guy came into the season top 50 prospect. I think he was second in the Dodgers organization coming into the year, and they need him. I mean, they're hurting a little bit. So, like you said, lives on the fastball and slider, and even sliders are more side to side movement. And we know that cores affects more like breaking ball downward type pitches. So, I mean, he really can live on a fastball, slider, changeup here, and kind of abandon the curveball a little bit in this spot. And I think he just has tremendous upside against this lineup. So, very interested in Bobby Miller today. I can tell you I'm very, very interested in not playing Ryan Feltner here. I know really good start last time out against the Padres. Some would say gutless Padres in chat. But yeah, no interest whatsoever in Feltner here.
Yeah, no chance.
I mean, the Dodgers top stack on the slate. We'll see what the lineup looks like. You know, I will say they're going to face a righty in the early game as well of this doubleheader. So we probably get pretty normal lineup in the early game, and we'll see who plays the second half. Like, I think like one of like Mookie, Freeman, Muncy, JD. I'd be shocked if JD plays both games, even in a DH role. But I'd be shocked if like Muncy plays both games. So like we could get cheaper Dodgers in this like second part of the doubleheader as well, which just sets everything. Yeah, just sets
I did not even consider this angle, but you're absolutely right. Like if we get a B lineup from the Dodgers here, like how chalky are they going to be? Like if they rest Betts and Smith and Martinez or something like that, or Muncy, like man, like we're going to be playing some Hayward,
Colton
Peralta,
Long, baby.
Yeah, and they're all under 4K, and they're facing Ryan Feltner. So I know those aren't great hitters, but they're in Coors Field and they're facing Ryan Feltner. So this is going to be a really interesting slate just because of this dynamic here.
Yeah, I don't think Michael Busch is back up with the big league club yet. But if he were to get called up and play in this doubleheader, because they get that travel, man, I forget how exactly it works. And he might be on the
it's
road.
basically just a free roster spot.
Yeah, he might be on the road team anyway right now because like the triple A season's kind of finishing out. But Michael Busch is 2K. He's minimum salary. If he were to somehow crack the lineup here on the doubleheader. But yeah, very interested in the Dodgers. Rockies, I mean, if they come in at lower ownership, I could see maybe stacking them just because of the ballpark. But I mean, like, we're getting into like the end of September. It's not like Coors is as good as it was like in the middle of summer.
Yeah, it's still a rookie pitcher making his first Coors Field start ever. I think I don't believe he's pitched in Coors this year, but like you can always take shots on that. It's on paper not a good spot for Colorado at all. It's not a talented lineup at all. At least they do have a couple competent major league hitters back now, and Charlie Blackmon and Nolan Jones has been really good. Chris Bryant's back. McMahon's still in there. So at least you can put together 3 or 4 you feel pretty good about. It's simply more of a hedge. I think I'll have more Bobby Miller than I'll have Colorado stacks for sure. But it's Coors Field, so you can certainly play him.
All right. Moving on. We got Texas at LA. This is a frustrating baseball game right now. 1-0 game. We have Heaney, it sounds like, against Detmers. Heaney has kind of been in like a long relief, like bullpen role. So I don't know what we'll be looking at for Texas starting pitching wise, which kind of stinks because we love, starting pitchers against the Angels right now. But if it is Heaney starting, it'll probably be like an opener situation. I don't expect him to throw more than like 3 innings here. What are your thoughts? Like, this could be like it was Dunning last time, wasn't it? It was Heaney, then Dunning came in or something like that, or Dunning started and Heaney came in. So I don't know. If Dunning moved to a starter and got announced as starter here, I'd probably have a little bit of interest, but that's 4 days for him, so I highly doubt it's going to be him. I don't know. This is a situation that's fluid, and we'll have to kind of see how it pans out.
Yeah, definitely. I think that you're exactly right. Yeah, Heaney and Dunning piggybacked last game, they both threw. Dunning threw 5 1/3 on the same day that Heaney did, September 22nd. So if Heaney's going 2 innings here and we're going to get Dunning for 5, Dunning might be a sneaky little play. He's priced up though, is the only thing. He's 7,900. I just had to check his price, but
yeah, but Dunning's on 4 days rest, so I doubt it would be him.
But so is Heaney.
Yeah, but Heaney's only throwing 30 pitches. Dunning threw 75 innings. 75, yeah.
Yeah, fair points. And he's probably too expensive to consider anyway, but I'm always interested in attacking this Angels lineup. I faded it on Monday night. I took John Gray under 5.5 strikeouts, and he got back on track. The other side of this game, Patrick Sandoval, I have no idea why his strikeout prop was 6.5. I took him under 6.5 with some juice, and then under 5.5 with plus money, and he just got yanked after 3 innings and 2 strikeouts. So that was probably the easiest strikeout bet I've made of the year, I think, outside of maybe a couple of Cole Reagans ones. But anyway, back to this game. I don't have any interest in Heaney whatsoever. Other side, and even I'm not trying to figure out with Dunning being priced up at 7,900, unless we got solid word from a beat reporter that he was definitely pitching the bulk, I wouldn't even consider it. But attacking this Angels lineup is something I would be interested in. On the Angels side here, Detmers has been a lot better, but I'm just not playing lefties against Texas with this healthy lineup. Like getting Jung back, Dolis missed some time as well. Like those 2 hitters are absolutely a lead against lefties. So while I do like what I've seen with Detmers, he's kind of found that beginning of the season form in his last couple here. Strikeouts have really come back in a big way. He's cheap at 7,300. I'm scared of this Texas offense at this point. Yeah,
I mean, the lineup that they rolled out on Monday night was a really good lineup against left-handed pitching, and I mean they really haven't got anything going yet. But yeah, not touching Detmers here. Like you said though, he's done a great job recently limiting power, and the strikeouts have been up. So like if you are looking for a super contrarian pitcher, I don't know if I necessarily would talk you off of him either, but a spot that I'm probably not going to get to today. Texas bats, I don't mind going back to the well on Garcia, Jung, Garver, or Heim, whoever catches here. Probably not a full stack for me, but I think that like the Texas righties are very much in play again today.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. Obviously frustrating they couldn't get to Sandoval. They took a bunch of walks, which is part of why Sandoval is out of the game already. But the upside against lefties for this team is just enormous with Jung and Garcia back in there. Seager has been awesome against lefties. He is super expensive. He'll be completely unowned in this spot, I think. Simeon is fine at 6K, but Jung and Garcia at a significant savings from those two are definitely where I'm going to have the most exposure. Jonah Heim is the other guy, fills the catcher position, 3,900, has had a good season against lefties. I prefer him slightly over Garver, who's weirdly had reverse splits this season after mashing lefties for most of his career. Grossman is another guy who's been awesome against lefties. He's 3,100. I probably have one full Texas stack if I'm building 20 lineups, maybe a couple of them, but the 3-man of like Jung, Garcia, and Heim or Grossman is elite in my opinion in this spot.
Angels bats here, it's so tough. If it's going to be a bullpen situation, I probably am underweight on the Angels here, but I will say, like, if it is a lefty like Adele, Ohape, Renfroe, all would be interesting plays, depending on like what we're looking at pitching wise here.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting, I would think, at least one at bat off. Well, certainly one at bat, probably two at bats off of Heaney if he can go 2 or 3. So I love those 3 that you just named there: Adele, Ohape, Renfroe, even Grichuk. It's a little bit difficult if Heaney's only going 2 innings here, and then we've got somebody like Dunning coming in behind. But trying to find a cheap home run, I think, is certainly in play.
The Rams offensive line looks like they're on skates. Padres at Giants, 8.5 total. Pick'em game. Harrison and Lugo. Any interest here in Seth Lugo?
I do. I've been attacking this Giants lineup quite a bit here recently. Seth Lugo has been an above average starting pitcher this season. Strikeout rate is all the way up at 26%. The leash was elite in the beginning of this season. He dealt with an injury. He's been back up to 95 and 99 pitches in his last 2. Like 8,400 is too cheap for Seth Lugo and the upside that he possesses in this matchup. It's a great pitcher's park there in San Francisco, and San Francisco is one of the highest strikeout teams in baseball. So I will definitely have some Seth Lugo. If Miller gets popular in Coors Field, I may even end up with more exposure to Lugo than Miller.
Yeah, I think Seth Lugo's a phenomenal. Why are they punting? What just happened? It's 6 minutes to go. You're down by, it's a 2 position. Like, why are you punting? Coaches in the NFL, I don't get it.
Oh man, there's
like
been
mathematically, like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. I'm not paid millions to coach football teams, but there's no chance I'm punting in that situation. Like, if you're gonna try to stop them anyway, like try to hold them to a field goal. If you don't get the 4th down, it's still a 2-possession game with a field goal. Seth Lugo, I think, is a great option today. Like you said, the Giants have been a team we can pick on a lot. And yeah, I mean, I think this is a spot you could definitely take some shots. Kyle Harrison on the other side of this game, very talented young pitcher. We haven't seen it fully yet. This is a tough matchup against this Padres team. They are a very good team against left-handed pitching. Their strikeout rate very low. They can throw a lot of righties at him. I probably put Harrison on the shelf today.
I think so too. I love this guy. I love his talent. The walks haven't been a horrendous issue like they were in the minors. So, and maybe that's part of why the strikeouts are slightly down. Like they're wanting him to focus on throwing strikes a little bit here. But just truly believe in the talent. Would love to play him on a different slate, even in a tough matchup, but don't think we need him here today.
Chat's like, what was the point of the field goal? That is what we're talking about.
That was the worst.
What are you doing? Oh, yeah. Padres bats. Man, I like the talent for Harrison, but he's also giving up a lot of fly balls and hard contact to righties. I could see playing some right-handed bats against Harrison here.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Ha-Seong Kim is a guy who I don't think he's going to get played in the spot, and dude's been awesome against lefties this season. Huge jump forward for him this year. Obviously, you've got the elite guys in Tatis and Machado. Probably don't play Soto lefty in the spot at 5,600, but Kim at 4,700, I love. Machado at 5,200, and Tatis is even below 6K now. So, like, you could do those and then throw a cheap guy. Campusano, the catcher, I think would be in my stack for sure as well at 3,500.
I saw a stat earlier today. Juan Soto in 10 games against the Giants this year, he has 6 home runs.
Interesting.
Fun. BVT, batter versus team. Cardi's mind is blown. All right. Giants bats against Lugo. Like, Flores banged up now. Dealing with a knee. Didn't even play on Monday. I just don't see a ton of upside here in the Giants. I mean, you could always talk me into playing Jock Peterson or Yaz at their current pricing, but I think this is one of the reasons that we like Seth Lugo today.
Yeah, I don't have any faith in this Giants offense. It's a pitcher's park for sure. They do the pinch hit thing. I don't see any reason. Like, I believe Seth Lugo has taken a real step into a starting rotation. And I mean, he's kind of proved this year that he's an above average starter. So a lineup that I don't like to play anyway. Tough park and a good pitcher on the other side. I'm out.
All right, we finished it out with a series that matters a ton. We talked about yesterday. Houston at Seattle taking on the Mariners. 8 total in this game. Mariners at 145 favorites. Just favorites because they're at home, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how you have Houston as a plus 124 money line here, but they are.
I mean, the pitching slightly, I guess. Kirby's been really good this year, and Javier struggled, but that's kind of, we'll talk about it.
Javier's been a lot better here recently, though. Like,
Yep.
You look at recent pitching for Christian Javier, we're not getting those like 5 or 6 walk games. That's always the biggest thing with him. His strikeouts have been phenomenal, and there's plenty of strikeouts in this lineup. I think like Javier is a boom bust pitcher. If he's not walking guys and striking guys out, he has a ton of upside. It's just more of, can he command the game control-wise enough to hit his ceiling?
I hope Christian Javier is low owned today because he will be my favorite tournament pitcher. You nailed it. He's a boom bust pitcher. He has immense strikeout upside. He didn't show it to us for a long time this season. 11 strikeouts in a tough matchup against Baltimore his last time out. His opponent is Seattle, another boom bust spot. Ton of power in the lineup, but also a ton of strikeouts. It would not surprise me at all to see Christian Javier throw up another double-digit strikeout game here. I think 8,000 is too cheap for his upside. It's possible that Seattle hits 3 home runs off of him, absolutely, but I think it's just as likely that he comes out here and strikes out 9 or 10.
Kirby, like you said, he's been great this year. I can't play him. I can't do it. Like, his strikeouts have dipped a little bit. He's been getting hit a lot more. He's allowed at least 3 earned runs now in 6 straight starts, and Houston is really good. I mean, they're healthy, and when they're healthy, they're really good. So I have a hard time, getting a lot of exposure to him just in this matchup alone.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, Houston is a team that I just ran from any pitching matchup against Houston the last 2 years before this season. Just would not play a pitcher in DFS against them. They're back to that team at this point. Their strikeout rate over the last 60 days is under 20%, the lowest in baseball, even lower than teams like Cleveland and Arizona that we've kind of been avoiding pitching matchups against all season long. So no way I'm paying 9,700 for Kirby in this spot against this healthy Houston offense.
There's the Garcia home run. You love to see those Garcia home runs.
Yeah.
Houston bats, I mean, we talked about it yesterday against Castillo. Castillo is a phenomenal pitcher. There's just so much upside. Punt again, 4th and 3, 240. Just punt. You're down by 10. No big deal. All right. Back on track. Sorry, distracted. But yeah, I think Houston is an interesting team just because, even on a 3-game slate, they didn't have a ton of ownership. I mean, I get why. And I think that you're going to get them at even lower ownership on a bigger slate against a pitcher like Kirby, and they're just an elite offense. Garver just hit a home run too. He did. Back-to-back home runs.
Texas starting to heat up.
Yeah.
Houston is expensive, and I agree with you. Like, people are going to be scared of Kirby, and maybe rightfully so, but just much like like Atlanta's facing a good pitcher too. Like, Steele's form hasn't been great, but I'm still playing some Atlanta just because they're an elite offense and they could explode on anybody. You knock Kirby out of the game early and get into a weak part of the bullpen, and that's when the stack can really take off. Alvarez is my favorite here, obviously, as he usually is. 5,800, just one of the best hitters in baseball. I think you find a way to get Tucker and Altuve in there too. It's really expensive, but it's worth doing just because of their upside. Finding there's not like punts that you love to play, like especially if Maldonado's in there at catcher. McCormick's priced up now. Abreu has had a really rough season. So maybe I just play the elite 3-man, Altuve, Alvarez, Tucker, something like that, and not go full stack against Kirby and what is a very good Seattle bullpen as well. But I think the upside of those hitters in particular, is worth chasing a little bit here.
I think Nate Lowe I think they just went back to back to back.
Wow. They have awoken.
Hilarious. Like, hey, I'll keep doing it. Like I said, very, very heavy on this game. Seattle bats. Gosh, like I respect the talent. They haven't had like that like slate winning ceiling, and Javier has been good. Like, if we look at like Javier's season numbers, like you want to play left-handed power against him, like Riley and Kelenic. But the bottom half of the Mariners lineup, not so good right now. Like Josh Rojos and like Canzone, France, like these aren't like above average hitters. Like the bottom half of this lineup is just not great.
I agree. I mean, that's why I love Javier today. I think he has crazy upside. Kelenic and Raleigh are definitely the two that we're worried about. JP Crawford, I would put in a little 3-man if you wanted to do it. Don't necessarily think he's a guy that's going to go nuts, but he hits leadoff. He's going to have plenty of opportunities. But the home run upside comes from Raleigh and Kelenic. You can obviously play Julio against anybody, but he's super expensive. And I'm really chasing lefty power, like you said, and there isn't a lot of it here to threaten Javier, which is why I'm on that side of this today. But he certainly is still an extreme fly ball pitcher who can give up multiple home runs in a start. So I do have a little interest in Seattle. They're pretty cheap as well, but Kelenic at 3,800, I love that. Any lineup I don't have with Javier, I'd be fine with him as a one-off.
All right, let's play the morning grind game, and we'll get out of here. Top Shot, thank you. He says, Cheese and you two guys are the best in MLB breakdowns by a mile. Appreciate y'all. Well, we appreciate you for listening. So Cheese is
absolutely.
Cheese is the GOAT.
Absolutely.
All right. Under 8K to get 6 or more strikeouts. Who do you got getting some strikeouts today?
I mean, it's got to be Michael King, over 30% on the year. Dude's looked incredible lately. Just struck out 13 of these Yankees in his last one.
Not even a fair question. Not even a fair question. I think I'm going to go Blackburn against Minnesota. But yeah, King by a mile. over 8K to score under 15. Who's your bust today?
I hate to say it, Stevie. It pains me. It hurts. But Justin Steele is probably not getting to 15 today against Atlanta.
Oh, Puka to the 1 to the 2. Oh, yeah. I know your boy Steele's going to struggle here.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Kirby against Houston. I think Houston's just such a stellar team overall that it's hard for me not to have interest in the Houston bats and to be under on Kirby here. Let's run. First and goal from the 3, clock running, no timeouts. Let's just run the ball down their throat. Oh, wait, it's like
how good is Puka,
is better than this.
Yeah, he really is. But Puka is legit, man. Like, I don't think he's going anywhere for a long. Even when Cooper Kupp comes back, like Puka has to have a role, right? He's just been incredible.
You know, good for like the Bengals have done really well, like defending him tonight. I think that was like his first big play of the game. I need a Stafford to like 2-2 touchdown here. We'll see if we get it. Over 4K to hit a home run. Who do you got going yard today?
This is an elite spot for Jorge Soler. We both said it. Just absolutely love him on this slate.
Oh, phenomenal spot. Like I said, I think he's one of the top hitters on the entire slate. Absolutely love that call. I'm going to go Corbin Carroll for a home run today. I know he's not like this big power guy, but I mean, this is just spots don't get much better than facing Jose Urena. I think I just got my 2-2 touchdown. He's number 5, right?
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. I got my 2-2 touchdown.
Dang.
Nice. All right. Under 4K to get 2 hits. We're going to have the same guy, so I'm looking for somebody. Who do you got?
Alec Thomas is my guy.
Yeah.
Hitting in the middle of the order.
I knew you were going to, right when we were breaking down the game, I was like, oh, why even mention this guy? Because I know Keith is going to. Anyway, go ahead. Tell us why we like him.
I mean, he's free. He's hitting in the middle of the order, and he's facing a guy in Jose Urena who we've attacked for years. So just way too cheap for this spot.
At one time, one of the top prospects in all of baseball, highly talented player, kind of has fallen off here. But give me Moncada at 3,800 against Zach Davies to get 2 hits today. Guy that kind of just needs to get it going. Really just needs like a healthy, full healthy season. Stack to score 6 or more runs. Who's getting the job done today?
Arizona, just Urena, just not gonna keep doing what he's doing. It's a lot of luck at this point.
Yeah, I love that call. I'm gonna kind of go a little off the board. I think that like this pitcher is honestly not that bad, but give me the Miami Marlins against Luke KC today. I think the Marlins are in a good spot. So that's gonna wrap it up. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I don't have anything else.
All right, we'll be back tomorrow talking baseball. Final week of the regular season. We will be doing some postseason breakdowns until NBA gets started. So we'll be doing a lot more like Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football type stuff as well with the playoffs. So Morning Grind, if you are a daily listener, we're not going anywhere. We're going to keep talking over the next month until basketball gets rolling. It's October 24th, I think, is what I read earlier today. Hope everyone has a fantastic Tuesday. Back tomorrow. Have a good one. We'll see you then.